In program evaluation, outcomes refer to the changes you hope to see in individuals as a result of participating in your mentoring program. Specifically, what shifts in attitudes, behaviors, or skills do you hope youth will experience as a result of your program? Now, these outcomes should be well defined and articulated in your program's logic model. But once they are, how do you go about evaluating those outcomes? How can you tell if all that hard work has resulted in the outcomes that your staff, mentees, parents, and mentors have hoped for? Thus far, we've covered logic models, process evaluations, and measuring relationship quality before discussing program evaluation. This was intentional because those are foundational steps that will help you work towards measuring program outcomes. Now, before we launch into this topic, I do want to do some level setting. First thing to note is that I know many of you have seen these fancy looking evaluation reports from large service providers with fancy tables and pie charts and methodology sections and all that, and you want that for your program too. Now, I think many of you are positioned to do the work that would result in something like that kind of report. Some of you may be a ways off, though, but I want to make sure that everyone understands a few things about this type of evaluation. First, outcome evaluation can be fairly expensive and time consuming. Those fancy evaluation reports don't come cheap. These types of evaluations often require the skills of an experienced evaluation professional. There are all kinds of ways outcomes can be mismeasured, misunderstood, and misreported. This is science, after all, and it helps to have science skills leading the work. There are practical constraints on the type of outcome evaluation you will be able to do. This is especially true of programs that serve small numbers of youth, but are hoping for statistical analyses that require much larger numbers of participants to be valid. There's more to come on this later. Outcome evaluations also do carry some risk. Not all programs hit all of their intended outcome targets, and the mentoring literature is filled with programs that looked fabulous on paper, were clearly well run and beloved by participants, but that for whatever reason just didn't quite see the real world results they were hoping for. That doesn't mean that that program can't improve those results. Remember, our old friend process evaluation might be able to help with that. But it does mean that after all that data collection and cost and effort to do the evaluation, the program got some not great news. But that doesn't mean you don't look, right? We have an obligation to make sure that our programs are having as close to our desired impact as we can get. And a disappointing evaluation isn't a reason to abandon a program, it's a reason to invest even more time, energy, and resources into it so that it can get better. So, if you're willing to take that risk, this section will teach you some key basics about tracking youth outcomes and doing a full outcome evaluation. The first thing we're going to review is the spectrum of outcome evaluation, which ranges from the simple tracking of youth progress over time to more complicated evaluation designs that help demonstrate that your program, and not other factors, are the reason that youth progress. We'll also drill down a bit more on that point and talk about the perils of confusing correlation with causation and some evaluation designs that help show that it's your program that's moving the needle. We'll also talk about the types of outcomes you may want to consider. Hopefully, these are on your logic model already, and where you can find tools to measure those things. As with process evaluation, a lot of this planning comes down to figuring out what questions you want to ask about your program. While this section will teach you quite a bit about outcome measurement, keep in mind that this is an area where you will likely need to work with an evaluation professional if your questions are complicated and you're not quite sure how to best answer them. But this section will help you understand how to think about your outcomes and the types of information you'll need to work effectively with an evaluation professional if that's the route you choose to go.